Right now, we are going to learn all about the power of reset from an amazing lady in Singapore, originally from the UK, and her name is Deborah Thurley. She's a qualified mindfulness facilitator, educator, and faculty member of the School of Positive Psychology in Singapore, where she lectures in applied mindfulness psychology. She delivers mindfulness and positive psychology workshops, lectures, and training to organizations and schools to support and optimize well-being. She holds a postgraduate diploma in positive organizational psychology and leadership with the School of Positive Psychology and a master's degree in applied positive psychology with Anglia Ruskin University in the UK. Deborah is an engaging, experienced facilitator, and her teaching style is clear and concise. She lives, works, and celebrates in Singapore. Please help me welcome Deborah as she comes to speak about the power of reset. Come on in, Deborah.
Good morning. Morning, Grant. Morning, everyone. Lovely to be here with you all. So I'm going to crack right in. Before we start, may I ask everyone who's been in the session, who's joining for this session, please can you just grab a piece of paper and a pen or pencil to write with, because when I teach, it's really practical. And what I really want for you all today is to have some actual takeaways. So I'll be working with the slides, not death by PowerPoint, I promise, but I'll also be working the old-fashioned way, because I thought it would be fun to collaborate together and actually draw up some maps so that what I'm talking about and the theory behind it really comes to life for everybody. So if you've got that and you're ready to start, we'll begin. Now, let me see if I can share my screen. So the talk is about the power of the reset. And I want to take you with me on a journey. So I'm going to invite you to play along just at the beginning here while we really get a feel for what this power of the reset is all about. So come with me on the journey. I'd love you to just put everything down for a moment. So put your pen down, just settle your hands in your lap. And if you're comfortable, just allow your eyes to close and bring to mind a time when you felt successful, when you felt celebrated, loved, cherished, valued, appreciated. So just with your eyes closed, just bring to mind a memory of that successful, happy time for you. Okay, and if you've got that, then I'll invite you to open your eyes. And how do you feel now? So turning to your pen and paper, please would you just note down for yourself just a few words to capture how do you feel on the back of that memory. So just do that now. We'll do that together. Lovely. So just a few words just to capture your feelings, your emotional tone right now. And I know that we can't actually share that as a group. I'm not in the Zoom room with you per se, but in the workshops and classes that I teach, these are some of the words, some of the emotions and feelings that do come up for people. So you might see one or two of your own feelings and emotions reflected here. So I'm going to stop the share now. I'm going to hop up and I'm going to capture a few of the words that you may have written on this chart, and we'll start our mapping together. So hopefully everyone can see this just fine. Grant, let me know if there's a problem with that. So for example, you might be feeling engaged or happy or appreciated or loved or successful, confident maybe. So I'll just take a few of these words from the overall feelings and tones that you may have reflected as well. Lovely. So we have one more bit of the journey to go. I'm just going to bring my screen up again. Thank you for noting that. Now I want to invite you to close your eyes again, and this time to think about a small argument or a very small disagreement, or perhaps a time when you read an email or a WhatsApp message that you felt, ooh, that's not quite right for me. So just with your eyes closed, just for a moment or two, bring to mind that event. We won't spend too long there. I'll invite you to open your eyes and again, ask you, how are you feeling on the back of that short remembering? So note it for yourself. Just capture your feelings, your emotional tone, just on the back of that memory. Do that now. We'll do that together. Good, beautiful. And again, because we can't actually be in the same room together and I can't see what you've written, I'll just pop up here some of the descriptive words of the feelings and emotions that people have on the back of that particular small memory. So I'm going to capture these up as well. I hope you can see that on the screen, and hopefully some of those words will have been exactly your own as well. So we've got some words which I'll scribble on this one: upset, disappointed, maybe you were feeling annoyed or stressed or irritated, angry. So I'll just quickly capture a few of those words. Thank you for playing along with me. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see on this side, we've got the words from the back of that memory and the words from the first memory, and I don't want to leave you here. So for the third time, we'll just close eyes together as a group. And can you please bring to mind the first event, the successful, happy, when you felt valued, appreciated, that first memory? Just bring that to mind now. Good, and when you feel anchored back into that positive emotion of that first memory, I don't want to leave anyone stuck on this side, please open your mind, open your eyes. All right, is everyone back safely? Good. So I want to just explore with you what happened just with that. Here we go. So we went from the happy, positive, successful sensation, feeling, or emotion, and we quickly jumped into a whole different range of emotions. And I know a lot of the speakers have been talking about, this range of emotions that come up for us as human beings. And we just had the experience of switching states. So we went from one to the other, and then we switched back. So the question is, how quickly did that happen? So you may have experienced that in just a few seconds. We sat with each of those experiences or those memories for no more than a few seconds. And it was enough to help us switch states. So hopefully you had a direct experience of that. Now, the question is, which state did you enjoy the most? And most people would agree it's the state where we felt successful, valued, appreciated, positive, loved, and so forth. So now you've had a direct experience of that. I want to show you what it looks like. We go from feeling good to feeling bad to feeling good to feeling bad to feeling good, just like that. It's as quick as a few seconds or in the blink of an eye. So what's actually going on? We call it the emotional roller coaster. And the emotional roller coaster it works like this. Your life is going well. You're feeling good because you're getting all the right results. People are being complimentary. Nothing's shaking your world, right? You're having a good day. So you're feeling good. So we all have that experience of like, wow, everything's going my way. And then something happens. You read something, you see something, you hear something, and whoop, there you go, sliding down the emotional roller coaster. And suddenly you have this whole different emotional palette at play. So I think being human, we've all had this experience before, and you'll be very familiar with this. So this is the emotional roller coaster. And the question really is, what drives it? So what drives this up and down yo-yoing of life and how we feel and respond to life? And the answer, if you haven't already got it, is your mind, right? So just thinking about those two different scenarios was enough to trigger your emotions to shift from one state to the other. So just to really map it out so that you're aware of what our physiology is doing in every moment of every day, what we're thinking about actually sponsors how we feel. Okay, so I just want to add this to our chart together. So I'm just going to stop the share and come back to full screen for a moment. So what we're thinking about, let me just pop this into a box for you to keep it nice and tidy. So when we are thinking about something positive, we can call this positive, okay? And we had that lovely memory of that time. We noticed that the emotions flowed from here, that what we were thinking about gave rise to how we felt on the inside. And likewise, what we were thinking about when I invited you to think about that slightly tricky time, that more challenging time here, sponsored how we felt on the inside in that very short exercise that we just did together. So what we think about has a lot to do with how we're feeling. And that's actually critical to understand because that's at play all the time, whether you like it or not, whether you care or not, whether you're aware or not. And this is what helps to drive the emotional roller coaster. So when we're feeling whatever it is that we're feeling, we can get emotionally triggered by the combination of what we're thinking and what we're feeling about what's going on in our life. And what triggers us are all these external stimuli. So people, events, situations, things, and even results, right? So a result goes our way, we feel good. A result doesn't go our way, and we're like, we get that feeling inside of not being good enough or failing. And the point of all of this is to show how these feelings, emotions lead to our behaviors and actions or reactions, right? So we can very often have a range of emotions, and we tend to notice it most when we're triggered. So this reactivity is something that we need to be aware of, and we need to understand what state we're in so that we can work with that. So the world has tilted, and well, it is as it is right now for all of us, but it's very changed from a year ago or even a few months ago. So with the pressures that we're under, it's very easy to be overloaded, feel under-resourced, overwhelmed. Tiredness, exhaustion, and stress are kind of part and parcel of many people's lives right now. And that means that we get quite quick to become upset, frustrated, irritated, angry, all of those emotions that flood us when we're feeling pressured or under-resourced. So again, this is something that you're probably familiar with. We have all had to deal with quite a lot of strange and unusual events in our lives recently. So this might be something you're familiar with, looking a bit like this little mouse. When actually what we want to do is reconnect with this peace and this positivity. We've learned a lot about positive emotions over the last 24 hours with various speakers bringing in the work on positive emotions. So my job today is to introduce you to the pause and the reset and why this is so relevant and why it's so powerful, especially at the moment when we are being triggered and we are under pressure in this rather strange time. So I want to tap a little bit on mindfulness. So I am a mindfulness educator and teacher and instructor, and I bring that into this basket of emotional intelligence and positive psychology. But mindfulness, really boiled down to its very simplest definition, is just noticing what's happening right now. And then noticing not just what's happening, but what's happening on the inside in our inner landscape and what's happening around us. So the stimulus that I was talking about, these people, events, situations, circumstances, results, all of this contributes to our human experience, our lived experience, and the perceptions that we have every day of our life. We either don't notice or we do notice, and we start to wake up to who we are being in this amazing storm of life. So sometimes it goes our way and sometimes it doesn't. And so it's like, how do we anchor ourselves? How do we, in the middle of everything that's going on around us, how do we pause and create that moment of reset? So I'm going to lean a little bit into mindfulness, and I'm going to lean a bit into positive psychology. But the point of all of this is, how do we intentionally, with awareness, create a pause for ourselves when we need it? And going back to this emotional roller coaster, which I'm going to do just for a moment, coming back here. When we talked about that emotional roller coaster, I want to just give you a little bit more information about where this lives. So when we look at this emotional roller coaster of life, when we get this push from life, whether it's, like I was saying, something that we hear or see or connect with through our senses, we can either have a positive moment or we can have a negative moment. If we're talking just very basic, of course, there's a huge range, and I'm not saying anything is good or bad, but if we were talking about this positive and negative context, the emotional roller coaster can watch us slide down. So we have a lovely something here, right? So a lovely positive thing here and a lovely positive thing here and so on. And then when something happens, we can slide down the emotional roller coaster and we can end up getting a little bit stuck sometimes. So it's about, mindfulness will invite us to be aware of the process, what's happening in each moment of this slide down and this climb up. And it's the climb up actually that's very interesting to take charge of. So this whole thing about the pause and reset is about, how do we take charge of all of this for ourselves? Okay, so when we look at this sliding that happens here, what we need really is a toolkit to say, when I'm aware that I'm here and stuck and having a bit of a drama and I don't know how to get out of it, it's no longer about saying or waiting for someone to say, oh, you poor thing, or gosh, I see that you're having a bad day, let me help you. It's about recognizing for yourself that you need to throw down that anchor line and you need to wake up to where you're at and then to do something about it, right? So this whole pause and reset isn't passive. It's not just theory. It's about saying, what are these steps that I can take for myself when I need to? And it's about, how do I move from this stressy state or this negative emotional space? And how do I bring myself across? And so I'm going to give you a how in a moment. There are many, many hows, and we only have a short time together. So I want to bring you, or to give you a how, to show you how you can go from feeling stuck in this space to bring you into a more positive space. And we're talking about inside yourself, right? So for our own inner well-being. And I just want to give you a little bit more information here on this map. If I was going to label these, and in terms of our physiology, again, it's very basic, right? This is just a snapshot. This, where positive emotions live, is called our parasympathetic. Perhaps Grant can put this up in the chat. Parasympathetic nervous system. And that's a branch of our autonomic nervous system, which is our restorative system. So it restores our balance and it helps us to reset. And here is where we heal. This is where our heart rate normalizes. This is where our blood pressure drops and normalizes. This is where our digestion and all our body functions are optimized and functioning well. And this, if you notice, is where positive emotions are born. And this is where love is born. So when we're in this parasympathetic nervous system state, this is where we are at our optimum best in terms of well-being and flourishing. So positive psychology builds this for us. So positive emotions, there's a lot of research around positive emotions. Barbara Fredrickson, of course, is a giant in her field in this positive emotion research. On the other side here is the sympathetic nervous system. And this is our classic fight, flight, and freeze. So look, there are many different stress responses. We have the threat response and we have the challenge stress response. I don't have time to go into the different responses of stress. Stress can be really good for us. It can motivate us, It can trigger our tend and befriend stress response. It can trigger our learn and grow stress response. This particular piece about the pause and reset now is about how do we manage when we go into fight, flight, or freeze, when we have this stress come up and we feel that it's detrimental to our well-being. And this comes up whenever we feel the threat challenge. So something is threatening us, we feel under-resourced, we feel that we're not up to the task, that we don't want this. So in some way we're resisting or feeling underprepared. So on this side, I will say this is only the threat stress response, okay? So this is the typical stress response we get when we feel under threat. And back in the day, of course, that was all about the saber-toothed tiger about to have us for lunch, right? It was survival. So even this threat response has, of course, a profoundly beneficial impact when we need it to keep us safe and to keep us alive. But what happens in modern day times is that we often find ourselves triggered, right, by events such as the email or the bad report or the snipey comment or whatever it is that's going on with people around us or that we're connecting with. And so we need to be careful we don't get stuck here. And a lot of people live in this chronic stress state and don't decompress and don't release the stress effectively. And we adapt. So chronic stress can become quite adapted because humans are very adaptive at dealing with stress. It comes in and we go, fine, we can manage. So we manage. And then more comes in and we go, fine, well, we can manage that as well. And we get these higher, more elevated levels of stress building. And so really for well-being and flourishing and thriving, we need to be able to bring ourselves over to our parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, and this is where we go into restore, balance, homeostasis. It's absolutely critical that we train ourselves to be able to come here when we need to and when we want to. We don't wait for life to put us here. We bring ourselves here and then we build this for ourselves. Okay, so I wanted just to complete that map, and this is going to be the how, just one today in the short time that we have together. Hopefully this is all making sense. And just be aware that this is playing out all the time during our waking hours. This physiology of the autonomic system is shuffling us between these different states, that switching states that we had that direct experience of just now. Okay, so let's come back into sharing screens. And I want to introduce to you an actual technique, which is one of my go-to techniques. And I've been doing mindfulness since early 20s, suffice to say. It's a beautiful, simple technique, and it works with the breath. It's called the anchor breathing technique. And I'm actually going to teach it to you now so that you take away one way of switching states for yourself that you can use anywhere, anytime, and we'll do it together now. So the anchor technique, before I start, I'm going to introduce you to my chime. This is just a little singing bowl, and it sounds like this. And I use it so that I don't have to use my voice all the time. You don't have to listen to me all the time. And so I'm going to teach you this technique. It'll only take a minute or so. At the end of the technique, I'll chime that sound. And when the sound is completely gone, please open your eyes. That will be your sign to just open your eyes and come back into the room. Okay, so we're going to do it together now. So again, just putting everything down. If you're holding anything, just allow your hands to rest in your lap. And allowing your eyes to close, just get comfortable. So just sitting comfortably, allow your back to be supported, let your shoulders and arms relax. And with your eyes closed, just bring your awareness to your breathing. Notice that you are breathing. Now tapping your awareness, paying attention to your inhale and feel the flow the air as it flows in through your nose. So just becoming aware of that flow of air as you breathe it in. And notice how your chest or your ribs or your belly expands and lifts with that inhaled breath. And pay attention to your exhaled breath. So notice the air as it flows out through your nose. Notice how the front of your body just gently softens and relaxes with the exhaled breath. If your mind wanders off into thinking, as it may well do, just become aware and gently gather your mind and attention back and refocus on your breathing. Continue with this focus on your inhale and focus on your exhaled breath until you hear the chime. Good, so allowing your eyes to open. And how do you feel on the back of that very short practice? So again, just picking up your pen or pencil and making a note for yourself. How do you feel right now just by paying attention to your breathing? So note that for yourself now. Just capturing your emotions, your feelings, just noticing. Good, so while you're finishing up, I will just pop back into my slides. And again, because I can't see what you're writing, we can't share that together. These are some of the feelings and emotions that people from my workshops and classes have reported. And so I thought I would capture some of these up. Hopefully, again, you'll see some of these in your own list, or that you also have a sense of this. So let me just capture this. I'll just stop share quickly and come back here so that you can see. Okay, so calm, relaxed. These are the two big ones that always come up. Peaceful. Let's pop that in here. Notice where I'm writing it, in the parasympathetic nervous system branch of our autonomic nervous system. Look at where it's living, all of these feelings. Quiet, anchored, and sometimes even focused. Sometimes people report feeling focused on the back of just being with the breath. I'm curious to know, although you can't respond, maybe you could pop it up in the chat box for later. I'm curious to know if you felt your mind wandering off into thinking. Like, were you able to stay focused? Or did you have that mind wandering piece? Probably you did. Like, everyone has that. It's a function of the mind that when we are relaxed, our mind wanders off. When we're stressed, our mind wanders off. And this mind wandering piece, I can't talk about that too much now. We're nearly out of time. I've got another 5 minutes or so. But if your mind wandered off, just be aware that that is normal. And part of mindfulness training and attention and focus training is to notice, oh, it's thinking. And instead of getting upset about it, just simply going, come back. And it's like you gather this wandering mind back and you place it on the point of focus. In this case, it was breathing, but it may be an email or it may be a conversation. So, when you take this focus and attention, which is what mindfulness training essentially is all about, or some of it is about, it's about saying, can I listen to the person I'm having a conversation with without my mind wandering off, imagining and thinking, and can I bring my mind to focus? So that's the training. Oh, it's gone, come back. Oh, so I'm breathing, I'm focusing, whoop, bring it back. So I just wanted to let you know that that is normal. And the work of mindfulness and training the mind to be focused with attention is exactly that, over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, so coming back to this, just to wrap it all up, I want you to notice the kind of emotions that live and build and grow in our parasympathetic nervous system, compared to the kind of emotions that live when we are in sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze mode. There's one more piece of this that I need to give you now. Two more pieces, actually. I want to draw up the breath. So when we have breathing, which of course we do all the time, we just don't remember that we're breathing and we're not necessarily aware. When we're breathing in that quiet, focused way that we just did together, you may note that your breath is a bit smoother, maybe a bit deeper, maybe a bit more relaxed. So in our bodies, we have this ribbon of breath, inhale, exhale, all the time. And depending on where we are in the system, it can change. So this breath can get quite short and sharp. We can even hold our breath, right? We can even hold our breath when we're really under threat or we feel very much on the back foot. And so the breath technique is as simple as when we're here in stress, chronic stress or acute stress, we pause and we reset by simply taking this breath and plugging it in. So we take this smoother, deeper, more relaxed breath and we simply plug it in when we're feeling like this. So we feel like this, we wake up to the fact that we're feeling like this, we may not initially be aware, and we just use this breath. The simplest thing about taking this breath into when we're feeling stressed and irritated is that we trigger the move into parasympathetic nervous system. We actually switch states. So this whole thing about pause and reset is knowing that you can switch states anytime, just by focusing your attention on your breathing and establishing this smooth, slightly deeper, more relaxed breath. And when we do that intentionally and consciously in this state, it has this incredible effect of bringing us over into our parasympathetic nervous system, restorative, balance, homeostasis. And a very interesting thing happens, just to finish up, is remember on the earlier slide where we described this process, what we think about sponsors how we feel. And then we said our behaviors and actions come, right, on the back of how we're feeling. Well, watch this. What kind of behaviors and what kind of actions do you think, or do you know, would come from this space? When we're in this state, someone walks in the room, so your partner, your beloved, your child, your colleague walks in the room and goes, hey, and you're feeling rested and calm and peaceful, and you feel like life is good and you're good and everything's good. What would you say and do? What would you say and do from this space compared to what would you say and do from this space? What would your words and actions be coming from a space of being irritated, frustrated, angry, upset? Very different, right? Very different, profoundly different. So it's our work, I believe, to understand, first of all, to wake up to where we are and then choose whether we're going to be here for a bit longer or whether it's time to shift ourselves out. And that's not to say that this is bad, but it is to say that we have the power when we wish, consciously and intentionally, that we can switch states. And this is a tremendously empowering piece. And I wanted you to share this with you so that you know this, because somehow it's not really taught. And I actually believe fundamentally that it underpins all of the work we do as human beings in terms of how do we grow, how do we move forward in life, and who are we being in our life? Who are we? And who are we when we're with other people in our relationships, at work, at home, at play? So I just want to end with one more tiny bit of information, which kind of wraps the whole thing together, is a little bit of research. So this isn't just something I'm making up. It's something that's under the pump in terms of evidence. This is something that we know about. And I just wanted to give you some of my favorite papers from an academic perspective. And just have a look at this, especially this one. So this breathing, this switch of breathing, when we plug it in, we take the breath and we plug it in, literally has the effect of switching states. So I hope that's been interesting and useful and practical. I just wanted to say thank you. Would absolutely love to connect with any of you on LinkedIn. Just search my name up and you'll find me. And I'm going to stop sharing now and come back into the main Zoom room, hopefully on time.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Deborah. And yeah, you did great on time. You're actually just perfect on time. So thank you so much for that. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go back through the chat here where you started. And in that first image you put up, people were putting that they were happy, they were satisfied, peaceful, content, successful, confident, happy, calm. I think that was, yeah, then it went to
Beautiful.
confused, embarrassed, desperate, tight, anxious, frustrated, unappreciated. And then when you took us through that beautiful exercise, by the way, your voice as a presenter, as someone who does what you do, is so calming just in itself, if I can just say that.
Thank you.
People went to relieved, calmer, relaxed, calm, sleepy. Now that one was something that is for me as well. I whenever I'm closing my eyes when I'm full on with something like this. But yeah, someone said they were sleepy, relaxed, and smiling. And yeah, definitely people had some mind wandering going on. I remember when I first started getting into mindfulness and meditation, like I'm an action taker, and like seriously sitting still, that's not something that was in my wheelhouse. And one of the things that I learned that I just want to add weight to what you were saying there, one of the things that I learned through using an app, I can't remember what it is now, but it had this beautiful thing where when I was in the state of focus and calm, and these little birds chirped, and when I shifted and my mind went away because I was using a device that was measuring my brain waves, and those birds would go away. The lesson for me was I used to get frustrated with that because it would talk about, it would show me how much time I spent in that zone of being fully focused. And what I learned out of that was that the whole exercise was not designed to just get me in that focused state all the time. It was to be able to reset and come back when I had gone off. Because, as you know, and as you've said, we're living in a world right now and always at the moment that's just full on. There's stuff everywhere that can distract us. So I believe in what you're saying there, that the power of this is the ability not to just stay, sitting on a mountain in a cave quietly and, being able to stay focused all the time, but to be able to come back, be able to recognize and come back. So yeah, I think that was absolutely fantastic.
Well, Grant, I'll just jump in because there's this really interesting piece of research, which is kind of a gold standard now that we go to. So there was a study done in 2010. The authors were Killingsworth and Gilbert. They found that people in their waking hours on average, okay, this is always on average, but that we do this mind wandering piece, 46.9% of our waking hours. That's nearly 50% of our time, our mind is just wandering off. And there is some purpose to that. Of course, it's not a bad thing always, but it is about that waking up and being aware that, oh, my mind has wandered off again, and tapping it back onto focus. So yeah, quite extraordinary, that study.
Love that. Fantastic. Hey, I've got some questions here for you. So
sure.
Swandi says, Deborah, please, can you recommend a book or two that can be helpful?
Oh, it depends on what you're looking for. I mean, if you want just pure mindfulness, or whether you want mindfulness in the workplace or mindful parenting. Grant, perhaps we could give a resource list out on email. Would that be more helpful?
Yeah, look, definitely. As I said, I'm going to get all the speakers to, give me permission to send some stuff out, and I'll collate that after the event, and we'll send that out. So definitely we can do that.
All right,
What's
I'll
your
send those
favorite? What's just on anything to do with mindfulness? I'm just going to put you on the spot. What's your favorite book?
Oh, I have so many favorite books. I absolutely love anything from John Kabat-Zinn, because he writes so profoundly and so beautifully. I love, there are a couple of books about mindfulness and parenting, which are just great. So yeah, I've got maybe 30 books on mindfulness. But actually, interestingly now, it's how mindfulness and positive psychology are connected and how they sit under the pos psych umbrella together, you know? So look, positive emotions are growing here. There's all that research from Barbara Fredrickson. So it's kind of, how do you cherry pick and get all of it together to support well-being? And that's really what it's about. How do you grow awareness, and how do you grow kindness? How do you grow curiosity, and how do you step back from judging? How do you catch yourself judging? So all of these are thoughts, and how do we catch ourselves with the thinking, and then where do we want to end up? So I love the fact that mindfulness is becoming more and more practical, in the sense that when we apply it together with other information and other research and other modalities, that we can end up with a very powerful empowerment suite of tools for ourselves to navigate the world.
Fantastic. Another question here from Yasmin in Melbourne. If someone is living with a situation, perhaps they are a carer of a family member, which is frustrating almost constantly, would it help to just keep switching states 100 times a day? And obviously, we're not going to get too much into the content there, but yeah, just what's your overall thoughts on that?
Absolutely, Yasmin. And I would also say that this is a part of our work, is not just to go through life being at the whim of, other people's stuff. So when we feel that frustration coming up, when we feel that stress or that irritation or whatever it is coming up, as you've described, it's about going, oh, is this who I want to be right now? Okay, is this the best me? Is this reflective of who I really am? Because we can get carted away on a train of this. And this is when our behaviors and our actions reflect how we're feeling. So switch, and you'll have a respite, you'll have some restorative balance, and then you'll get triggered again, and then you switch again. So 100 times, yes, as often as it takes. And here's the thing, I know that our last speaker was talking about neuroscience. I wasn't able to watch because I was waiting to come on, but the neuroscience and that neuroplasticity shows that whatever we focus our attention on, whatever habits we establish, our brain supports that with growing new neural networks and so forth. So every time we make the shift, right? Every time we practice that breath, and there are many other techniques, but just that simple thing of shifting and switching, our brain will support that habit of, when it comes up, that feeling that we have the tool, we switch, and then our body can go, oh yeah, okay, I know this now. So it's becoming a habit then, that when it gets too much, or when you become aware, that you can shift. Absolutely.
Love that. Thank you. Yeah, so there's two things that come out of that for me. So, and you talked about these in your talk, and that is the power of the pause. And this is where, and this is the whole reason why I just don't teach emotional intelligence and go down that road. This is why this whole summit is about the combination of social and emotional intelligence with positive psychology and applied neuroscience, so that we can look at it from all different areas. And in the emotional intelligence side of things, which I know Yasmin, she's one of our students, one of our alumni. It's that ability to be able to, in the moment, recognize what we're feeling, to label the emotion, to then take it down a road of controlling where that goes and designing the response that we're going to have. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, around that, building those new neural connections through habit, where we start with a conscious effort to pause and reset, and then after a period of time, it becomes a strategy that is automatic, that when these situations come up, we used to go this way, but now we're more likely to go down here.
And here's the key, which a lot of people miss, is that you have to do the work when you're feeling okay. You can't build a successful habit when you only do it when you're under stress, right? So actually, I would say to anyone who's tuning in, do those resets for yourself here. Like just tap into the breath, do the mind wandering, bring it back, so that you're training the technique here. When you're feeling rested and calm and safe and secure, you're not under threat. So that when this comes up, you can lean into it. So it's always about just leaning into the practice, leaning into the habit that you've established. The best place to learn a new habit and to learn new ways of being is, of course, here when you're not under fight, flight, or fight stress, right? So it's here. The other thing I just want to end with, because I know I'm going to be running out of time, is this last thing, is that we have access to our executive function, our reasoning, our logic, higher order thinking, when our autonomic nervous system is in this mode, parasympathetic, right? So the vagus nerve, when we're here, our brain networks light up and we have access to higher order thinking. This is why we learn when we're coming from this space versus something like the amygdala. So this is just a little bit of extra information. The amygdala, which is our fight, flight, freeze, fear center. So that's our, our survival mechanism in the brain. That when that fires up here, we actually don't have access to this. So they move like this. If survival is high, we don't have time to think about, oh, wouldn't it be lovely? We are in this mode. So just be aware that if you're in this mode, it's really hard to make good decisions and good choices, or wise decisions and wise choices. When we're in this state, it's much more easy to react, right? So we get triggered, we react, and then we're like, oh, I wish I hadn't said that. And so we have this perpetual cycle, and that's when we can get a bit stuck. So lean into the practice, establish the practice here. Just close your eyes, do 30 seconds, 10 breaths, 8 breaths, and then wake up, carry on. Anchor, action, anchor, action. Yeah, it's really helpful to do it that way.
Love that, fantastic. And people are saying thank you in the chat. Brilliant information, it's great. And I love how you've given us some things that are practical. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving up of your time and your expertise and skill to come and serve this great audience from all around the world. And I really appreciate you. As I said, I will speak to all the speakers, get their permission, collate some stuff. I'll put it somewhere. We'll make that happen. And I'm sure Deborah will be able to give you a list of resources. So thank you very much, Deborah. And
thank
everyone,
you,
if you could, as Deborah goes, can you give her a big round of applause and say thank you, gratitude, and I look forward to catching up with you. We'll have a bit of a chat sometime after the summit. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Grant. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Have a lovely day.